from PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster. Once again, it's time to cup your elbows or kiss your shoulders, dip your elbows in milk. You know, if you have aquatic friends or pets that will watch you kiss your shoulders or your bicep with a flourish, you know, do that before you get in bed. Say, hey, fishy poo. Hey, kitty cat, watch this. This is both self-care and a symbolic, you never conquer self-care. I mean, I heard that once. It was a villain in a cartoon. They said, we're going to conquer self-care. And, you know, the other character had a knowing, oh, my goodness, I'm supposed to be on the teaser of the beginning of a sleep podcast. You know, it's time for Sleep With Me podcast to put you to sleep. That's why I went off topic. And Sleep With Me is here to support you out of empathy and compassion. So there's links to organizations if you're having a tough time right now you could connect with right now. There's also links that you could use to support the members of our community and be a part of positive change and say Black Lives Matter with your actions. And then Sleep With Me is a free podcast. It comes out twice a week, and that's because of the help of the people that support our sponsors, which you're going to hear about next. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. I don't know if you've been to sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/patronfeed. If you're a patron and you don't have your patron bonus content, it's not really even bonus content. It's your membership. It has so many episodes, so many different styles you can create playlists from that work for you. So if you haven't set it up and you're a patron, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. Or if you want to become a patron, you say, Scoots, I'm looking for episodes without the jingles, or I'm looking for all-night episodes. I like intro episodes. I like the story-only episodes. I don't like, I want episodes without the thank yous. I want more Ray. It's all there. Between $5 and $20 a month, you could be an annual patron. You'll get a month free. You get the pride in knowing, wow, I'm a part of an amazing community of a podcast that not just helps me, but helps hundreds of thousands of other people every single night fall asleep. You could sign up, or if you're already a patron, please get it set up. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. You could sign up to be a patron, or if you do it from your phone and you're already a patron, you just log in, click allow. You can pick from a list of podcast apps and you could subscribe. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about Helix. It's a mattress that's a big part of my life, but it might not be a part of yours. Maybe you and someone else in your life can't agree on bedtime. You might not be able to agree on how much they snore nonstop versus you trying to sleep, but maybe both of you could agree that you need a new mattress. So maybe together, or maybe you're like me, you say, Scoots, I'm flying solo. Well, you deserve a new bed too. So maybe all of us need to get over and take the Helix quiz at helixsleep.com/sleep. The quiz just takes 2 minutes to complete, matches your body type and sleep preferences, finds the perfect mattress for both of you. With Helix, you're getting a mattress that you know will be perfect for the way you sleep, and everybody's unique. So Helix has different mattress models to choose from: soft, medium, firm, ones that cool you down if you sleep hot, even a Helix plus-size mattress for plus-size people. Now, I got the Helix Dusk because I sleep warm, I toss, I turn, I sleep on my side, I sleep on my stomach, and I love my Helix bed. Like I talked about last month, I was away from it for a little while and I missed it so much. So if you're looking for a mattress, you take the quiz, you order the mattress you're matched to, and the mattress comes right to your door, shipped for free. You don't ever have to go to a mattress store, deal with salespeople, deal with setting up delivery and arranging all that. And Helix is awesome, but you don't have to take my word for it. Helix was awarded the #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 by GQ and Wired Magazine. And just got to go to helixsleep.com/sleep. Take that 2-minute sleep quiz and they'll match you to a customized mattress that'll give you the best sleep of your life. They have a 10-year warranty and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you will. And Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/sleep. That's Helix, Helix sleep.com/sleep for up to $200 off and 2 free pillows. And then send me your success videos. When you get that test, when you get that mattress, when you get it unboxed, you get it set up. I love hearing about it. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody. I'm going to tell you this right up front. The Apollo Neuro is a key part of my wind down routine and my good night's sleep. And you can get your own Apollo Neuro today and get it for 10% off if you go to apolloneuro.com/sleep with me. But you might say, Scoots, tell me more. I say, of course I'll tell you more. Because everyone in this community around the show, you know, you're having trouble sleeping. And part of that is winding down and getting your body and mind in a comfortable, rested state, that rest and digest mode. And that's where Apollo Neuro comes in. It's a safe, effective way for you to take control and get the rest you need. It was developed by physicians and neuroscientists, and Apollo Neuro is a wearable device that helps you relax, fall asleep, and sleep more deeply. Apollo engages with your sense of touch using gentle vibrations that train your nervous system to go from fight or flight to rest and digest more quickly so you can focus, sleep, and be more productive day or night. Usually the first part of my bedtime routine is putting the Apollo Neuro on in meditation and mindfulness mode. And sometimes I'll let that meditation and mindfulness mode run for 30 minutes. Other times I'll switch it up to relax and unwind. And then I'll start reading my book and really starting to chill out. And then right when I turn off the lights, I'll set up sleep and renew for 120 minutes. And it's really become something I rely on. But Apollo Neuro is more than that. It has 7 goal-based modes that let you choose how you want to feel. So that way you don't have to use stimulants or depressants. Apollo Neuro offers a natural, easy way to stay energized and focused throughout the day and then help you unwind and get the sleep you need. Restful, quality sleep. Learn why thousands of people already use Apollo Neuro. You've heard me talking about all the listeners that have gotten it. I've never seen more people using our link to get a product. And I think it's because Apollo Neuro is a drug-free alternative to improve sleep and improve your resilience to stress. I mean, that's what we've all been looking for the past 2 years. So do not miss out on this special offer. Try Apollo Neuro today and get 10% off your purchase at apolloneuro.com/sleep with me. That's apolloneuro.com/sleep with me to get 10% off your purchase. apolloneuro.com/sleep with me. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, it's time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone. The one part of the show I really need you to hear is where I pop my peas and I say please, and I say thank you to the listeners who supported the sponsors. But right now, I'm actually looking for people to talk about on the Sleepy Supporter Zone, particularly anyone that's supported All Form Sofa. You could check out more at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. If you haven't checked out All Form, the sofas are amazing. I really want them as a long-term sponsor for the show. So if you've supported All Form, use the link at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. I'm going to introduce you to something we haven't even announced yet, which is the Dream Door Society. So if you support All Form, or you say, wait a second, Scoots, I do need a new sofa, go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors, support All Form, share with them, share with me on social media, use that form on that site, and I can thank you here in the Sleepy Supporter Zone, and you'll get in the Dream Door Society. That's the first part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. The second part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone is you getting the support you need. There's resources in the show notes. It's also about being a part of positive change, using the links and resources in our show notes to support the members of our community, to say that Black Lives Matter, to stop Asian hate, and to take action to support everyone in our community. So that's the second part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. The third part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone is something I support. But again, I want to hear about what you're supporting to support the Black members of our community, support Black mental health, to stop Asian hate. What are the resources you're supporting and you're using? And let me know about it so I can share them here on the Sleepy Supporter Zone, which is now over. Oh, Mystery Bart, a lot of people help out on this show. Who are they?
Posty poster son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes too. Carl W. the Legend. Also edits episodes. Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team let us down. They're on the website. I am the Mystery Bart. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at JonathanMann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it. Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Hannah like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mr. Bard. I'm at Dear Scooter on Twitter and Instagram. That's where you can find me. What do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. That could be, things that you're thinking about on your mind. That could be from the past, present, or future. It could be physical sensations. It could be feelings related to the physical sensations or the thoughts, or just feelings that are there. Changes in time or temperature or routine or something else, work schedule. Well, I don't know, whatever it is that's keeping you awake. When I say I don't know, I mean, I don't know. It's important, but it's important for me to be here to keep you company and take your mind off of it too. And so that's what my job is. The way I'm going to do it, or I propose to do it, is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. And I'm going to go off topic and get mixed up and then, talk about something way too much. And, kind of like, I don't know if that's what the hokey pokey's like. I know I've talked about the hokey pokey before, but this podcast, here's the thing. And I see, wait a second, the tarnished past of the hokey pokey probably is out there, but, was that game supposed to teach us something? I guess, this was the 80s when I was doing it. And so, yeah. Blind allegiance to authority figures, Scoots. And I said, well, then that makes sense. I guess that that fits the time period. And because you say it was like some authority, whoever had the microphone. Most of the time I was doing the hokey pokey was at a roller skating birthday party or fundraiser. And you would do the hokey pokey there. I have no idea how I could actually do it, but apparently I did. Maybe that was maybe I wasn't. I mean, I'm a different person than I am today than I was now. Then I wasn't even a person. I was a child. But I don't think because you put your right foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your right foot in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. And that's, so I was thinking, it's like, hey, just follow along, just do but now I'm saying at bedtime, it can feel like that. That's what it's all about. You're turning all around, tossing, turning. But whatever it is, if you're new, I want to give you some info because my regular listeners say, Scoots, I love it when you talk about skating parties and then you get mixed up, and then it's hard for me to imagine you on four wheels or two wheels. And I'd say, yeah, it's hard for me to I scarcely believe it. But so, if you're new, I'm glad you're here. Let me give you some information. If you're new and you're skeptical or you're doubtful or you're not sure about this show, that's totally normal. That's how most people arrive at this podcast. Maybe you heard about it from somebody or a list somewhere. Or maybe you're just searching for a podcast to put you to sleep or to take your mind off of stuff. That's what I do, but it's kind of like calling a friend across the deep, dark night and you say, can you just talk to me about some nonsense for a while? Like in a friendly voice to keep me company while I fall asleep. That's what I'm here to do. So essentially, I'm not really here to put you to be listened to. You could listen at any point. You can listen along and I'll be keeping you company for as long as you need to, but the listening is optional. But also, I'm not really here to put you to sleep. I'm here to be your bore friend, your bore bae, your bore cuz, your bore sib, your bore bestie, your bore bruh. and to keep you company while you fall asleep. So those are two things. If you're new, and it's a very common experience not to like the show when you first get here, or not to like it at all. That's totally cool. This show is not for everybody, so no pressure. No pressure to listen. No pressure to fall asleep. No pressure to like me or the podcast. Just see how it goes. Maybe be like well, let me see if I can get used to this or not. And that's what literally hundreds of thousands of people have said. It took 2 or 3 tries before I got used to the show. So it's okay. And it's okay if you don't get used to it. There's other podcasts you could check out at sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. That's a list of other great sleep podcasts and other things I use to take my mind off stuff. So let's see. Those are those 2 things. Other things that can throw new listeners off, other than creaky, what are creaky dulcet tones? Well, a voice that's neither pleasant nor unpleasant. But on the unpleasant side of you say, well, yeah, that's creaky dulcet tones. Pointless meanders, I think I've already demonstrated that. Structure of the show can throw new people off, and that's totally normal, too. Our structure is very different. The structure is very intentional because the goal of the podcast is to ease you into bedtime and to be here for you on a reliable basis twice a week. So, let's see. So what can I tell you about that? Oh, structure show. Show starts off with a greeting, friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, so you feel seen and welcome. And you know the show ideally is built on what, as I learn more and more about being empathetic and compassionate, hopefully that becomes a stronger and stronger foundation of podcasts. Then there's support for listeners. Then there's support so the podcast can be here for free from sponsors and listeners type stuff. Then there's the intro. Now, this is where the business throws some people off, but some people think the business just carries on to the intro. But really, the intro starts, 6, 8 minutes in the show and goes on and on and on for somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes. And the intro's purpose is to ease you into bedtime. It's for new listeners to say, okay, I kind of barely understand what he's talking about of what to expect. And I think he's mentioned self-care, not to try to conquer self-care and not to try to conquer sleep, but to ease us into bedtime. So the intro is a way to get some distance from the day. But the regular listeners, as you become a regular listener, if you do, you kind of work it or you change it up. Listeners change up how they use the show all the time. So these are just some examples. So the majority of people wind down during the intro, whether they're getting ready for bed, brushing their teeth, brushing their hair, brushing their pets, maybe even brushing your tub. I mean, give your tub a brush. I mean, 1, might like it, and 2, might be relaxing. Maybe not, though, because you say a light brushing. Maybe do some, I don't know. Maybe that's not the best idea, because I'd say that's more of a scrub, Scoots. I'd say, yeah, that's what my tub said. I prefer a scrub than a brush. So, but maybe you're brushing something else. I don't know. Trying to think of other things you'd brush that would be pleasant. Maybe brush your rug. That could be a thing. I mean, how come there's a lot of soothing things people don't know about? You say rug brushing. Oh, to clean your rugs? No. Have you never brushed a rug before? Holy moly. What kind of rug you got? Doesn't matter. Don't answer it because it could be, if you brush, what kind of brush you have? Oh boy, are you in for a treat? Oh, you don't have a rug? You got a floor? Oh man, you got the side of a, you ever brush the side of your sofa? Oh man, it's one of those things I've never tried, but I've imagined I've tried it, and it was so chill. Sounds terribly boring, and, I do while I'm listening to a sleep podcast, and I'm unwinding. So I don't know, other listeners are in bed getting comfortable and drifting off. Other people are stretching or doodling or doing a craft. A small percentage of listeners are falling asleep. Oh, so cozy. You look so cozy there. Oh, boy. 2 to 3% of listeners skip ahead about 20 minutes and start the show there because they want to be closer to when the story starts. And then on Patreon, it's a little bit easier for people that listen all night long or like story-only episodes or like all intro episodes. And then there's some people that are starting the show like in the middle of the night when they get up. So hello. Good re-evening to you. We'll have to think of a good greeting for that. If you're listening to this, let me know. Because good night, nighty night. Maybe that's what you say after midnight. Instead of saying good night, you say nighty night. Nighty night, I don't know. I can't think of any words, empowering words that rhyme with that. But so my brain, there was just like a long pause as I tried to think of something. I said all my words are like the only silly word I can think of is tidy whites. But everything else is well, that's not very sleepy. And tidy whites aren't super sleepy either. Well, tidy ones would be say, oh boy, your tidy whities are tidy. Anyway, so that's the way the intro, it kind of, for most people, it eases you into bedtime. It's part of your wind down. You don't necessarily need to fall asleep to it. You could. But it's designed to give you some distance from the day and the night. Then there's our more business. That's just where a lot of companies like it, between the intro and the story. And then we'll start our bedtime story. Tonight it's going to be a crossover episode, so it'll be really, really fun. And if you ever want to check it out, the podcast out, it's called The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood. And we'll be covering episode 5, but it's just another sleep style podcast, chill bedtime stories, kind of on Sleep With Me level, a little bit silly, a little bit immersive. So that's The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood, and we'll be doing episode 5 tonight in the Tongass National Forest. So that'll be our story. Then the show ends with some thank yous. So that's the structure of the show. And the other really important thing for you to know, other than it's okay not to like the show, just give it a few tries and that doesn't work for everybody, is that the reason I make the show is because I know how it feels. Tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. Yeah, I've had it all in other ones too. Yeah, I don't want to get into it, but so if I can help you, whatever you're going through, get some rest or take your mind off of it or keep you company. If you can't sleep, that's really important to me. And that goes deeper on the second level is your sleep is important. You deserve a good night's sleep. And if I can help, that makes our world a better place. If you can face the day with a little more energy tomorrow, that's great. And then that's powerful. Or if this becomes part of your routine, or you graduate from the podcast and you develop your own sleep routine, that's amazing. So I'm really glad you're here. I really hope the podcast can help you. Give it a few tries. I work really hard. I yearn and I strive. I really hope I can help you fall asleep. And here are the ways I'm able to do it for you free twice a week. Thanks. All right, everybody, Scoots here. It's time to upgrade your apartment. It's time to upgrade your home, but do it the easy way. Go to livefeather.com and use the promo code SLEEP and join the furniture revolution. Just like music, just like movies, why would you want to own something that you want to change on a regular basis? Just like the majority of people don't want to be locked into watching the same movie every night. Do you want to live with the same furniture forever? Because I don't know about you, but I've moved enough times and lived in enough places to say, you know what? It might just be easier if there was a service that I could just rent furniture from, but not just any furniture that's stylish, a furniture that's well made and looks good. And that's why you got to check out Feather. I mean, people move between 6 and 8 times before they hit their early 30s. Feather is a furniture rental company designed for people who want to feel at home no matter how often they move. They save you money. I mean, furnishing a one-bedroom can cost upwards of $6,000. And with Feather, you can furnish a bedroom with high-quality, beautifully designed furniture for the cost of your monthly utility bill. The delivery team brings the furniture directly to your home in as little as 7 days. No setting up a separate delivery through a third party. So you could go from an empty apartment to a fully furnished home without lifting a finger or assembling anything. Just picture that. New chest of drawers, a new nightstand, a new bed frame. And they have everything. Rugs, lamps, wall art, and more. And then let's say you move to a different place, different layout, maybe a little different style. No problem. You can easily get furniture that works for that space. Plus, by renting from Feather, you're choosing a sustainable alternative to fast furniture that won't end up in landfills. Feather has changed the way I look at furnishing because I know I'm going to be moving at least a few more times in the next 4 years. And I'm tired of of putting furniture together with a little wrench that I'm just going to put on CL for free in a year or two. I want something that looks good, that works well, but is hassle-free. And that's why I love Feather. So try a new way to furnish your home. Right now, Feather has an exclusive offer just for Sleep With Me listeners. If you go to livefeather.com and use the promo code SLEEP, you'll receive $500 off your first month. That's livefeather.com and use our promo code SLEEP for $500 off your first month. Get over there and send me some pictures. So thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, it's Scoots here, and we've got a brand new sponsor that I'm very, very excited about. We're talking about Bombas socks, and you might not know this, but I love running, and there's lots of things that can make workouts hard, you know, going faster, extra distance, going up hills, but your socks should not do that, and I love Bombas Performance socks. They're built to be nothing but comfortable and supportive. Bombas Performance socks have taken all the amazing innovations that make Bombas the most comfortable socks you've ever worn, and they've added their Hex Tech performance technology. Bombas Performance socks are stitched with special moisture-wicking yarn and temperature-regulating vents to allow cool air to flow in and prevent overheating. One thing I love is they have this pillow-like tab that saves you from blisters, stay-up technology, they never fall down, and then this amazing arch-hugging system. It makes my foot feel so comfortable, and it keeps my sock in place. And then they have an extra layer of cushiony comfort on the bottom for the perfect amount of support. They come in different styles for every sport with specific design features to help you optimize performance and keep you comfortable no matter what you're doing. And like all their socks, for every pair of Bombas Performance socks you buy, they donate a pair to someone in need. And they've donated over 45 million pairs so far. And then let's talk about Mother's Day. Let's talk about an amazing Mother's Day gift. If you're searching for the perfect thing for mom, Bombas Mother's Day collection has comfy gifts like colorful wild wear socks, ready-to-gift sock gift boxes, performance sock gift bags. But no matter what your mom's into, you can find something cozy for her. And like I said, Bombas balances, their socks look good. They feel good. I've been wearing their socks for years and years and years. Before they even advertised on podcasts, my brother's been into them. So I love them, wearing them during the day when I'm walking around my place and when I go for a long run. And they make amazing gifts. So go to bombas.com/sleep today. You'll get 20% off your first order. That's Bombas, BOMBAS.com/sleep for 20% off. Make sure to use that link. That's bombas.com/sleep, BOMBAS.com/sleep, 20% off. And then share your socks with me. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, this is Scoots, and I want to shout out to Ellen and Fitz, just in case they're listening, my friends Ellen and Fitz, who introduced me to Chris Mancini, who makes the podcast The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood. And I may have talked about this in the intro, but I'm recording this out of order. It's a sleep podcast. It's a chill podcast. The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood that Chris makes. And this is going to be a tribute episode, similar in a way to Vast Horizon. I'm going to turn things over to Agatha because you can't keep Agatha off the podcast, I guess. And she's really good at these episodes where she's taking someone else's writing and storytelling and putting in a different context. But so then you could also listen to the original version in your podcast app of choice, The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood, or there'll be links in the show notes that you could just use to be a little bit easier. But I want to thank Chris for letting us use his writing here and create an episode out of it. So it should be pretty fun. So without further ado, who's Agatha? Agatha was a character. She's a professional storyteller, or she runs a class in another world. Back a long time ago, we had a couple series called, what they called After the Glass Slipper. They were about Cinderella's life after the glass slipper, but they were really about the life of her stepmother, Agatha. And Agatha's just, we've always kept in touch. We've become, across the universe, has become really close friends. Currently, Agatha is a teacher and a sentient pit of lentils who teaches class. She lives in a swimming pool. And that's very important for any of this. But I know people, you say, well, who's Agatha? I said, well, let me try to answer that in the next 5 hours. But really, so she teaches a class, or co-teaches actually, a class about the myths of her world. So she's big on these. When I say, I say, hey, I got a myth. Which of the great books is it from? And I said, Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood. Oh, wow. So here, without further ado, here's Agatha. She may refer you as children, even though, she means it she's used to teaching children, but she also talks to me like a child. So what do and I say, well, don't you work for me technically? So without further ado, here's Agatha, the storyteller. Oh, hello, everyone. This is Agatha, your friend, your teacher, and hopefully I tell this tale from the Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood with great aplomb. And I've listened to the show a few times. I really enjoy it. I use it to relax. Scooter has to. I said, can I take your phone? Or a phone like, he says, no, you can't take my phone into another world. It would disrupt time-space. And this tale does have some time-space mentions. So anyway, this is, and we'll see how many episodes we get in here. But this is from the podcast, The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood, Episode 5, Hiking into the Forest. And this is where Jonathan travels to Alaska's Tongass National Forest, Tongass National Forest, which is the fourth biggest forest with 26,256 square miles in total area. Well, I forgot, you don't believe, even in my world, did you know even gnomes use a metric system in my world? Gnomes, orcs, and orgs both use the metric system. Anyway, welcome back. Okay, this is episode 5, and I'm speaking as your friend Professor Atwood and Jonathan as the narrator, and we're just getting started. Now, you may have noticed our adventures don't always have consistent lengths, and that's true. And that's really just the nature of adventuring. Some will be shorter, some will be longer. It's not really up to me so much. It's about what's in store for me. And let's be honest, who among us really knows what's waiting? So many good things and so many positive surprises. And I mean, we could talk time travel and visiting the future, but then you have paradoxes, and that's what you say. The Scooter even told me that joke. I got it. What is a pair of suburban dads? What do you call a pair of pants on suburban dads? Paradoxes. Not anymore, though, Scooter said. Now it's a pair. Anyway, so time-related things, the inclement time, weather. And I've hinted about this earlier. Nothing's predictable. Even if you could see into the future, what you're seeing is a possible future that could alter just by you observing it. Like that movie with the heroes. I learned how to stream. I come from my world, a world of castles and horses and carriages. And I like that Paul Rudd. No one asks me in my world, Agatha, who's your favorite movie star? And I say, well, I prefer someone that's a star of television and film, Paul Rudd. And they say, right, like Mud? And I say, well, yes, I love Mud. I love Paul Rudd, but he's great. He was in a time heist. That's why I thought of it. He's also, heisted my heart. If anyone could love a woman who was a sentient pit of lentils, I wonder if it could be Paul Rudd. In another world that he's not a part of. Okay, I got to get back to the story, though. We've got uncertainty, time variance, principles, fluidity, linear nature. You got to take that stuff with a grain of salt. Science is salt. If you get too bogged down in the mechanics, you risk losing the bigger picture. Time is like one of those magic eye paintings that was popular a while back. You can only see the whole thing if you look at it from a specific angle and a specific distance, and sometimes, no matter how hard people try, they can never see it. Sometimes it's more important to peer into the present to really see what's going on in front of you, which is what I'll be looking for on this next journey. So take a step back, broaden your perspective, and when you're dealing with the present, you always want to make sure you can see the time forest for the time trees. Now, speaking of trees, I thought I'd go on a solo hike for my next journey. Like I said before, sometimes it's great to have your own crew. Sometimes you get to meet a new crew, like Professor Atwood, boarded Captain Flynn's boat. And sometimes you just go it alone. Bradley was going on vacation, so the timing worked out. Now, what does a lab explorer's assistant do? Where does a lab explorer's assistant go on vacation? I mean, when your job's, to go to places that are very interesting or to prepare someone else for those places. Where do you go to relax? Well, Bradley likes those all-inclusive resorts, and I don't blame him. The less planning he has to do, the better. That's his job. It's interesting that most of these resorts plan all these activities for you, and he likes to have the option. But mostly he just wants to go somewhere and have the option of doing things and choose not to do them. And I get that. Also, there was no pending experiments and all of the plants were hibernating. So there was nothing for him to take care of. I told him to have a great time and to take lots of pictures of him not doing anything. But he said that taking pictures was doing something, so he couldn't guarantee it. Oh, that Bradley. That reminds me of another the person. Because, then Scooter started letting me watch movies with him. And I thought it was funny that the man who portrays, he's some sort of a Norwegian god or something. Oh, boy, is he, oh, boy. But he called a raccoon a rabbit, and that was a gag in 2 or 3 movies, which I found every time I laughed, and Scooter laughed too. But the man who played, so it took a while because this is why I'm not supposed to come to your world and do these things, these electronic things. Don't worry. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody in my world anything about it, except Paul Rudd and Thor. But what was my point? Oh, Bradley. So I said, that raccoon is it's not a human from a human world. And Scooter said, no. And then he said, a CGI. And I said, what's you saying? And then he explained, and eventually he introduced me to another Bradley. Oh boy, Bradley Cooper. And no one believes. So I was again with some of Scooter's family, and I said, did you know Bradley Cooper's that voice? And they said, no, it's not. And I said, yes, it is. So that got me banned from your world for a while because it was a heated disagreement. Okay, back to our story, though. But before Bradley left, he had prepared everything for my journey, and I was going for a hike, not just any hike. I was going to Alaska's Tongass National Forest. The Tongass is the nation's largest national forest and covers most of southeast Alaska. It's bordered by the Pacific Ocean on the west and the Coast Mountains and the Canadian border on the east and spans 500 miles of southeast Alaska. It is the largest intact temperate rainforest in the world. Now, coastal temperate rainforests are very rare. At least, of course, like I said before, like the ones you know about, they only occur in about 6 places outside of Alaska. And the vast majority of Alaska's coastal temperate rainforests are old growth. which means exactly how it sounds. It consists of western hemlock, Sitka spruce, mountain hemlock, and Alaska yellow cedar. Mature coastal temperate rainforests are extraordinarily complex and stable habitats. Over thousands of years, many wildlife species have evolved to exploit this habitat. Interesting how I say that, but understanding the complexity of this habitat is only now beginning to be understood, and much more scientific study is needed. It's not really my thing. Professor Atwood, of course, I'm speaking as, but I have some colleagues studying it. But I doubt I'll run into any of them without a helicopter. And I promised myself this was one hike where I would not bring the helicopter. Now, at roughly the size of West Virginia, Tongass National Forest is also the largest national forest in the U.S. and a home to approximately 70,000 people living in 32 communities, including the state capital Juneau. Now, the first peoples have continuously inhabited the Tongass for more than 10,000 years, residing with salmon, bears, wolves, eagles, and whales. Living from the land is still a way of life there, kind of a tradition and necessity since there's plenty of fish and wildlife in the region. Well, not all year round, but as much as I like hiking, chances are you won't find me in Alaska in the middle of the winter. Now, I knew the some of the terrain would be unforgiving, but I wanted to make sure I brought everything I needed. So Bradley and I upgraded my satellite phone for emergencies. I wonder if Professor Atwood, I could borrow that, so I wouldn't have because then I wouldn't have trouble getting a signal. I would also be bringing the usual hiking and camping gear, backpack, phone, GPS, rope, analog, compass. This is like a compass is like one half of the pod man, not the first half. Maps, books on lore about the forest, food, water, first aid kit, repelling of forest friends, a small portable power source, a few changes of clothes, and my portable mandolin. Ooh, I could hear the strings playing for me right now. What's great is it sounds like an actual mandolin, but through remarkable acoustic engineering, it is the size of a small ukulele. Or I think those are both correct. So I was ready to go, and I flew into the Ketchikan airport, and now that in of itself was a bit unexpected, because you'd think the Ketchikan airport would be in Ketchikan, but it isn't. It's on another island, and you have to take a ferry from the airport to get to Ketchikan. Once there, I took a crisp, clean breath full of mountain air and just soaked it in as the water gently broke against the docks. The town was amazing. It's so beautiful. Almost like a coastal Italian town. You have a port, the city, beautiful trees and mountains all crammed lovingly into the same space. Like everything is trying to be in the picture you're about to take and get crammed in there. It was just what I was hoping for. This is very relaxing. Even telling this story is relaxing me. The town itself has great food. I don't think it's called the salmon capital of the world for nothing. The problem is I don't like salmon. I know by now you're thinking, Professor Atwood is quite a picky eater. You should try having a diet when you're a sentient pit of lentils. It really restricts your dietary. Actually, I'm self-sustaining, which is that confuses me as well. No, that was me speaking, not Professor Atwood. But I will say this as Professor Atwood, as a picky eater, when you find something that's truly great, you enjoy it all the more. Like when I was in the UK and they served me fish and chips. So while I passed on the salmon, I had some crab cakes for dinner, and it turned out just fine. And then after dinner, I was not ready to turn in, so I went down to Creek Street and stopped in a club that had live music. It was jazz night, and I was worried about sitting in. But then I saw somebody brought a washboard, so I didn't feel odd about it at all. Normally, they don't let washboards and mandolin players sit in. But they seemed to make an exception for me. And my new washboard friend, Benny. Oh, I like that. That reminds me of Benny the Cab, or Benny and the Jets. Benny and his washboard. Benny and their washboard, actually, Agatha. He was actually pretty good. We did a lot of riffing long into the evening, and the jazz trio Running Cod were very magnanimous. So I can't say I'm a professional like they were. Turns out Benny was, though. He was a studio washboard player, and he was just there on vacation. And I was ready to head back to the hotel, but Benny suggested we go to the Midnight Lumberjack Show. Turns out there's an actual lumberjack show in Ketchikan. But there's an underground show at midnight just for locals, but Benny said he could get me in there, you know. You can't explore without trying new things, so I said, sure. So we went through a hidden door at the back of a local tavern and entered a really large room with a pile of sawdust spread out at the center. Now I, as Professor Atwood, but I, as Agatha, am learning every day, am familiar with traditional lumberjack competitions with axes and log rolling and log sawing, log climbing, a lot of things to do with logs, basically. But I didn't see anything like that set up here. In fact, there wasn't even one log in the room. But the big competitors soon arrived and the crowd cheered. A few people gave Benny and I some subtle, annoyed glances, knowing I was an outsider. But Benny assured everyone I was cool. Now, it turns out there was only 2 competitions for the underground lumberjack show, and the first was making flapjacks. 2 stoves were wheeled out, and the 2 competitors, after donning hairnets, got ready to face one another. Now, I didn't catch their names, so I just referred to them as Big Beard and Little Beard. Now, Big Beard definitely understood flapjacks. Now, just as a side about flapjacks, this is Professor Atwood, not Agatha. They've been around for centuries, 30,000 years ago, possibly during the Stone Age. They may have even found pancakes in the stomach of Otzi the Ice Person. And that's 5,300 years ago, which is not easy to figure out. But I guess you could make educated guesses. Now, in ancient Greece and Rome, pancakes were made from wheat flour, olive oil, honey, and milk with curdy poos. Ancient Greek poets Cratinus and Magnes wrote about pancakes in their poetry. Can you imagine being so infatuated with a food you write poetry about it? Oh, pancake, I'd like to taste you. Or, you know, but Scooter won't let me come to his place to have them. Boo-hoo. He says I'm from a world where pancakes don't exist. But then I taught the ogres and the orgs to make them. Tisk, tisk. But also I'm a sentient pit of lentils, so I don't really eat a lot of pancakes. Okay. Also, Scooter doesn't like, he said, why you gotta sit on my couch? And he said, let me put a blanket down first. He says that after I leave, you know, people, he says he rarely has guests anyway, but even people delivering something will say, what is that smell? Reminds me a bit of pea soup. Okay, back to the story, though. Well, as Professor Atwood, I'm a picky eater, so the most I would do is a haiku, but I'd have to be pretty inspired. Now, the name pancake started in the 15th century, but became standard in the 19th century of America. Johnny cakes, buckwheat cakes, griddle cakes, flapjacks. Early American pancakes were made with buckwheat or cornmeal. Thomas Jefferson loved them so much he sent a recipe to his hometown from the White House. But back to this competition. Big Beard was flipping his cakes with the knowledge of a flapjack historian, but Little Beard was still mixing his batter. One tip I learned, don't overmix the batter. Soon both were on the griddle and competition was heating up, so to speak, and there was many mix-in options. Blueberries, chocolate chips, all with different point values. I wonder if there was like a triple sow cow or a Lutz for pancake competition version of that. So while the judges were doing their judging, both contestants were still... Oh, wait, no, I missed a thing here. Benny told me that last week someone made a crepe and they were disqualified, but it was so delicious, so they said, you're only disqualified for a month. Now, Big Beard seemed like he was in the lead, but Little Beard was not to be, defeated. Like maybe he had a trick up his sleeve. And soon the pancakes were plated and served to the judges. And while the judges did their judging, both contestants went back to the griddles to keep cooking. Ooh, this is nice. They made enough flapjacks for everyone, which was a house courtesy of attending the Underground Lumberjack show. And if I, Professor Atwood, hadn't had such a great dinner earlier, that my mouth would have been watering because the flapjacks smelled so good. But I declined as I was full. Now, Benny was not, and he devoured his flapjacks, bananas, almonds, and blackberries. And when the judges announced the winner, it was an upset, and Little Beard had won. Turns out Little Beard had taken his time to get just the right ratio of cornmeal in his flapjack to make a buttermilk Johnny cake hybrid. So I took one of those to eat later, and I felt like this was almost historic. Like I wouldn't want to miss it. Like I didn't want to just pass on the pancakes. And, I like pancakes, but I don't even think this hybrid pancake is going to make me write haikus. We'll see. And then it was time for the second competition, and it was a true, honest-to-goodness dance-off. And one person was dressed as a fuzzy friend. Now, obviously, people say, do you have good peripheral vision when you're in the dancing suit, dancing furry suit? And also, if you're going to be on the dance floor with someone else, you say, do you really have good peripheral vision? You're sharing the dance floor with another dancer. And believe it or not, if you run a dance club, these are the kind of things you need to be aware of and create ordinances around. So this was like a dance. And so the first person, the first requirement was to do a dance called the backpack. I think that's how they warm up. So we got ready for it. We got ready to watch it. And it was, again, the same competitors, Big Beard versus Little Beard. Versus, so three dancers versus someone dancing in a furry, fun friend outfits. A Big Beard and Little Beard had taken off their flannel and suspenders and really got, they put on sunscreen. Interesting. I guess to make the dance, because they were going to shine like a diamond in the sky. Shine bright like a diamond. This is another reason. So this is why I went second, obviously, because you don't want anybody cooking after they've been slathered in sunscreen. You say my pancakes smell like coconut, but taste like something. Okay, so they were good dancers, so both Big Beard and Little Beard. But as the they have those shows. Scooter won't let me watch them. The Secret Singer and, the Dancer in Disguise. I've brought those. Those are the ones I call it in my world. So at one time I dressed up an ogre as a turtle, and that was who won. Well, of course, I'm the only judge. But anyway, the dancing was going on and on and on. It was very good, and people were clapping and cheering. And it went on for a long time, and everyone was getting tired. But then, someone would pull out a new move or a new genre, or the DJ would go from a DJ to a live band. And it seemed like Big Beard had a little bit more energy. And Little Beard got tired, maybe from focusing on the cooking too much. And Big Beard just kept on dancing with joy. And even the furry dancer got tired out. And Big Beard won. And by then, Benny and I were just tired from the competition. And we said our goodbyes, wished each other well. He had to get on a flight to head back for a famous studio session with someone, and I had to get onto my hike. So I went to bed. I closed my eyes, and I got comfortable. I listened to some more of the adventures of, the quiet adventures of Professor Atwood to fall asleep, which, it was relaxing. And then I drifted off, and the next day I woke up and I was ready to go. Ready to head into the Tongass National Forest. I did not have to go far because it was right there, because if something is 16.7 million acres, there's plenty of places to explore. Now, I knew I needed to go where I needed to go. So I got started and I checked my GPS to make sure I was on track. And I do want to say one thing about exploring and camping. Have a buddy. Make sure you got a buddy. I'm Professor Atwood, but if you're heading out there, you also want to have redundant communications, a way to get in touch with Bradley if you need to. I mean, I had a plan, like I had a check-in system for me, because it was my GPS phone and satellite phone and Bradley. But I have a backup, so you say, hey, okay, I'll talk to you at 2 p.m. But you could always bring someone, I'm Professor Atwood, so I'm professor, I always have my professor part of me, my daytime professor, evening professor. And, not a professor, all parts of me. But bring a friend, then you have someone to talk to. I'm talking to you, of course. You could even bring a four-legged friend along, like a puppy poo. I don't think you should bring a cat unless you're going to carry them the whole time. And then what if they get sick of you and they say, well, I want to go for, then you could, so don't bring a cat unless you have like a tree fort. So this is some sort of place, I don't know if they could have a tree house for cats. And you say, well, this is where you drop your cat off when it's sick of being, when you're hiking, but your cat's had enough of you. But one time I encountered someone who had a dog but no shirt. And I said, that's interesting. You don't have a shirt at all, or you're just walking around shirtless? And they said, yo, man, it's time to blaze, it's 420. And I said, oh, interesting. Okay, then. I'm confused, but you seem mixed up too. So I walked slowly into the forest, and I started on a well-worn trail. And, I walked step by step, foot after foot. I had good ankle coverage, and good socks, too. Those are, Those are very important things to have when you're in the forest. Socks that wick your moisture away. And also one of the things I like about hiking is saying, oh boy, are these dogs barking when I take my shoes out of my boots. And when I'm alone, it can't bother anyone, I can just say it to myself and laugh. Another thing to remember, I started going these lesser-known trails is to be respectful and to think about that as you're walking and to say, okay, and is there anything else I can need to do outside of my hike? One of the things I did was, as Professor Atwood, I have solar-powered portable air conditioners that I've distributed in the area. Anyway, I'm just going off topic here. As I walked deeper into the forest, the tree canopy above me got thicker. So I knew I was leaving the modern world behind. Now, this is not the same as an Amazonian rainforest. The sounds are not the same. They don't have the same level of intensity where it sounds like life is teeming in every square inch. Here in Alaska, everyone and everything, there's a little bit more space, a little bit more quiet. I felt the gentle breeze with a hint of coolness to it, and I heard birds chirp overhead and little forest friends scurrying around, looking at me, saying, oh, well, is that a professor walking? A deer was having a snack and looked up at me and just looked me over, but went back looking for salt, I believe, to lick. That's one thing I've learned as Professor Atwood is that deer don't like human-made salt licks. Or at least we never see deer using them. So I don't know if that's because, if they do use them, though. I've seen them, but maybe they just don't want us to, they like appreciate the effort. Deer feel like this is the natural habitat looking for salt. It's not a big deal. And, they have to get ready for winter and other forest friends. But this was my favorite part of the hiking. The forest got quiet, but not silent, just turned down. I could sense I was alone in a way that let my chest open up. It let my muscles go loose. I was on the path less traveled. Now, I never really told you where in the forest I was headed. But here's the thing. I may have hinted at the destination, but we're going to have a little surprisey poo. You'll know when I get there, I assure you. But for now, let's keep peering into the present. I crossed many streams filled with salmon and began to climb a steep mountain. I found the path I was looking for and soon was at the top, and the view was incredible. It was almost 200 feet above sea level, and the air was the crisp and cleanest I've ever breathed. And I breathed a lot of air. My whole life I breathed air. But at various elevations. I mean, you also have the obvious reasons why the air was so good. I was miles from anything human-made, from factories and those things. But many people forget that the air we breathe all over the world, most of it comes from forests like these. Plants release oxygen into the atmosphere and absorb carbon dioxide. Now, this process is called photosynthesis. And I'm sure you're aware of that because maybe you learned it in school, maybe not, though. Plants, algae, and other friends use the sun's energy to create organic matter. Photosynthetic life forms use light energy to transform carbon dioxide and water into sugar and oxygen. This is why plants and algae are crucial to Earth's biosphere, because I feel like I'm on a ride at Epcot Center right now. I'm loving this. The Tongass attraction, because they regulate the atmosphere's Earth ocean oxygen content. Agatha's having trouble talking. Now, thankfully, the plants and trees don't seem to mind doing this. So think of a forest as a oxygen air factory. The closer you are to the source, the better it smells. Kind of like a Maine lobster in Maine. But at the end of the day, it's still a friend swimming around. You're going to enjoy it to some degree either way. So I'm standing on top of the mountain in the middle of this natural air factory, and I let my lungs slowly fill with something special. The pure air, the pure breeze, and now the beautiful view all give me a deep sense of comfort and serenity. And the beautiful view gave me a deep sense of comfort. I sat there for hours, taking it all in, even watched the sunset. The colors of the sunset over the forest are different than watching it over the ocean, but they are both something to behold. And as you can imagine, the forest sunset has a bit more earth tones, but both are warm and soothing. Now, after sunset, it was time to make camp. And normally, you'd have your camp set up before the sun went down. But, since me, Professor Atwood, scientist and explorer, I'm not always the best at roughing it. Sometimes it's necessary, but when it isn't necessary, it's when you choose to do it. But sometimes I choose not to do it, was what I normally do. So I had my campsite airlifted in about 2 hours ago while I was enjoying the sunset, with my drone friends and GPS and air traffic control at Ketchikan. Steve and Bill, they know the drill. And, when anything I need, when I'm going to spelunk or even the team. But tonight it was an inflatable climate-controlled tent, biodegradable fire pit, and a chef-prepared meal of fresh salmon cakes, which I asked the chef was appropriate because the term baked Alaska was once upon a time, but they had offered it as a dessert when I ordered it with extra meringue. It was coined at Antoine's, a restaurant it was first coined at a restaurant called Antoine's in New Orleans, Louisiana, by Chef Antoine in 1867. To honor the acquisition of Alaska, but he said it was just a dessert. I shouldn't read too much in it. He also offered creme brulee as a substitute, but I went with the baked Alaska. And after dinner, I sat up and read for a bit in the light of my custom fire pit, adjusted the flame, and played my portable mandolin freestyle. There's something about playing a mandolin in the middle of a forest that really makes you feel like you're back in time. I felt like I was camping out in an enchanted forest full of mystery. But I knew I wasn't, but I still felt like it. It felt good, and I felt the music, and maybe even the forest felt it too. Like some connected memory from an earlier time and place. The trees, maybe a jester traveling through this area. And the rest of the party said, Jester, get out and play the mandolin here. I also set up a salt lick for the deer because I like an audience, and I was hoping the deer would come for the salt lick out of courtesy, even though I know, like I said, that they're ambivalent to human salt licks and string instruments. It also helped me give a chance to view the wildlife without getting out of my hydraulic camping chair. But only a few deer came, which was disappointing. Probably the rest had made up an excuse not to come by for my salt lick or my performance. So I closed my performance with a song I was working on. about a castle floating in the sky over a rainbow. But I always get stuck trying to justify the light being refracted by the water droplets to form the rainbow and how that would hold up the castle. And after I finished, the few deer that were there gave me a nod in a satisfied way and trotted into the woods. And I was getting pretty tired and knew it was time to turn off the fire pit and get some rest. Now, the tent itself was going to keep me warm. I did not need a sleeping bag or a blanket because it was climate controlled and came with an inflatable bed right in the floor. I know this might sound like Professor Atwood does not like communing with nature, but I use the technology as a part of it. I love being outside and I love nature, but I also like to sleep well. Now, the next morning, I set out to do what I had traveled to do, visit a glacier up close. More specifically, a special glacier that was different from all the others. Now, continental ice sheets have shaped the landscape of southeastern Alaska over millions of years. The slow-moving ice carved deep fjords and created mountain summits and transported sediment and debris onto the landscape, so the glaciers really did shape Alaska. Many of the Tongass glaciers empty into glacial lakes or rivers flowing from under the ice until it eventually reaches the sea. Ice breaking off from the glaciers and crashing into the sea is called calving. Glaciers that calve directly into the sea are known as Tidewater Glaciers. And there's a lot of glaciers in Tongass National Forest, but I wasn't looking for one in particular. First, you could get to it by land, somewhere only accessible by boat. The glacier I wanted was South Sawyer Glacier, but it's further east. There's mountain goats that make a lot of noise on South Sawyer Glacier. So they sound like they're irritated with the glacier. And I made it to the glacier I was looking for. It was a smaller glacier that no one else seemed to bother with. And I got up on the face of it, and I felt like I was looking in a giant icy mirror, reflecting my image back at me. And at the same time, I felt like the world was also being reflected in that ice, where we've been, where we're going. Time slowed down. Even the reflection seemed to shimmer with a slower passage of time. I'd found what I was looking for. I'd found the sole glacier of Tongass National Forest, steeped in history and mysticism. No one's quite sure how it worked. I mean, some have theories. Glacier ice appears blue when it has become free of bubbles, and years of compression make the ice denser over time, forcing out tiny air pockets between crystals. And when the glacier ice becomes dense, the ice absorbs an amount of red light, leaving a bluish tint in the reflected light, which is what we see. When the glacier appears white, that usually means there are tiny air bubbles still in the ice. And my theory is every air bubble may contain a soulful memory or insight. So anyone who's been here, from the First Nations people to tourists, can't seem to quite get enough of it. Maybe this glacier stores these and mixes them together over thousands of years in millions of bubbles. The soul glacier is like a spiritual supercomputer, for lack of a better term. Maybe it peers into you and finds a memory and makes a copy to store in its ice air bubble matrix, and hopefully gives you an insight in return. Or maybe not. I mean, maybe it's murky. It's possible it's just reflecting its enchanting icy facade for you to pick your own insights. But as I stared into that icy wall, I saw many shimmering colors and many reflections. Some of me and some of another place. It was a small glacier. But when you're steering deep into it, it looks like it could go on forever. And inside, it really seems to do just that. As I stared into the glacier and my reflection at the same time, a sense of peace washed over me, the glacier saying, I see you, but in a kind way, like a parent to a child. I mean, maybe I felt a little bit condescended, but the glacier's been around a lot longer than I have. I saw myself, and for most people, I saw, that I wasn't perfect. I'd made mistakes, things I would have done differently. Like maybe I should have worked at NASA after I got that PhD instead of exploring. Maybe I could have had my rocket propulsion system ready to go faster, but water under the science bridge, I suppose. But when you look at yourself, you have to see the whole package, and the Soul Glacier is pretty insistent about that. I saw the good and the bad, the achievements and the setbacks, and the successful experiments and the not-so-successful ones. The glacier wanted me to see it all, and I did, and I got my insight, which was this. When you look in the mirror, there's always room for improvement, so respect that and take it to heart. But at the same time, be generous and know that knowledge and improvement are lifelong pursuits. No one has ever done early with seeking knowledge and improvements. And I have to say, I was tired after that, and to make things more interesting, it had just started to snow, which was unusual for this time of year. I have a feeling my moment with the glacier had something to do with it, but it was always a good time to be prepared. So Bradley had my exit team planned right by to pick me up, and I was surprised, but glad I did not have to work to get back. I took a sled back to Ketchikan. And I have to say, it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. Not everyone got along, and we saw rabbits, and then some of our friends chased the rabbits. But soon I was back in Ketchikan, and I made the ferry back to the airport, and it was time to go home. And when I got home, there was a CD, a compact disc, waiting in the mail for me from Benny. He had sent me his Washboard solo CD. It sounded pretty good. I can see why he's in demand. And I sat down in my recliner thinking about where I'd just been. I mostly thought about the glacier and what I had seen. Not just what was inside, but what it had reflected back at me, giving me a gentle reminder. Like, here you are, right here and now, and this is who you are at this very moment. And I think that stuck with me the most. The trip home gave me more time to think and to get some clarity on what the Soul Glacier was trying to show me. Mirrors reflect us in a more manufactured way. So, when nature makes a mirror, it reflects something deeper. It's something to pay attention to. It tells us to look deeper at our reflection, that it's in our nature to be curious, to explore and to learn, and then with that knowledge to be a better person. I got it, and I was grateful for the journey and grateful for the insight. Thanks, everyone, and keep exploring. Good night from Agatha and from Professor Atwood. And, of course, Bradley for all, Bradley and Paul Rudd, too. Good night. I want to thank everybody that reviewed the podcast recently on Apple Podcasts. Let's see here. Just adjusting because I'm doing it on my phone right now. I'm 9 years old. This is from Gray Fox. I'm a kid, and I wanted to try it. It's amazing. I love it so much. Thank you. Then Joanne says, I go to sleep every night with this. Grateful for the podcast. Relaxing, calms me, and it helps. Rich Girl 17 says, podcast is my go-to 5 nights a week. Funny, and makes it a little middle of the night, a little bit less bad. When I can't sleep, I usually hear like 10 minutes, 5 minutes of the podcast. I love my boyfriend. Then somebody that doesn't like the changes in the show. Ruger says, nights are less scary, ensures you feel genuinely welcome and valid. Listening to podcasts that made me feel less alone. Thank you, Scoots. Made a huge difference. And then Neon Wildflower from Canada, talk nonsense to me. Turns out when you ask your friend or partner to ramble about something you don't care about so you can fall asleep, they find it rude. That's exactly right. So Sleep With Me exists for this. Love with coffee. Works every time. I'm so determined to hear the stories, and also I'm so wide awake. There's no way this guy will put me to sleep. Lo and behold, in 15 minutes, I'm in La La Land. Pleasantly weird. Arna double quad 7 says, worked for me. Every episode says, Scoot says it takes 2 or 3 times work, but for me, when I found it, I was in a desperate insomnia-fueled Google search. I started listening and helped right away. Usually during the intro, I fall asleep when it explains how the podcast works. But sometimes insomnia is strong and I hear the story. Super grateful for this, and I've been recommending it. Thank you. I can't sleep without this podcast anymore. It's from Madeline, who says, I love this podcast because it makes me go into bed with a happy time. I usually feel so much anxiety, and it's comforting. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for reviewing the show, sharing your thoughts about your actual experiences listening to the podcast. I really appreciate that. And Sleep With Me really exists as a free podcast because of people that support the show through Patreon, our sponsors, or writing reviews, or referral program. We're just telling people about podcasts in general. Helps Sleep With Me grow, believe it or not, eventually. So that helps too. Thank you so much. And here's a little bit more about our referral program. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, BetterHelp. You know, if you're having trouble meeting your goals right now, difficulty relationships, trouble sleeping, or if you're feeling stressed or depressed, BetterHelp is available. BetterHelp offers online professional counselors who can listen and help. And I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, is that I've had a lot of struggles throughout my lifetime with mental health and with self-medication and stuff. And working with professional licensed therapists has given me the tools to function and flourish in my life. And that's one of the things I'm so grateful for is the relationship I have with my therapist, someone I can talk to who can listen and help me. And with BetterHelp, you simply fill out a questionnaire to assess your needs, and BetterHelp will match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. And this isn't self-help or a crisis line. This is secure online professional counseling. BetterHelp counselors have a broad range of expertise which may not be available in your area. Their service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send unlimited messages to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, and everything you share is confidential. You don't have to worry about going to the office or sitting in a waiting room. And BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so it's easy and free to change counselors if needed, so you can find someone you're comfortable talking to and working with. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. And this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Sleep With Me listeners can get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. So visit BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme, and you can join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced BetterHelp professional. Thanks, everybody. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. As I tuck in here, I just wanted to let you know about 2 things. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer. That's what I was talking about earlier. Free way to just get rewarded for spreading the word about the show. You could get an ad-free feed, podcast feed. So if you say, well, I can't afford to be a patron, but I want ad-free episodes, you can earn that through sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer. You could also win a pair of sleep phones. You could get some bonus episodes. So there's a lot you could do. and that's at sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer. Or if you're already a patron and you say, I don't want to listen to the ads, or I don't want to listen to the thank yous, I just want the intro and the episode, make sure to set up your patron feed in a podcast app. Just go from your phone or your device, go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed, and get it set up. You'll log into Patreon, you'll click allow, and then you can connect your bonus content or your membership to a great podcast app. There's a lot of free podcast apps there listed, and then you'll be good to go. Or if you want to become a patron, you can still use that link, and then you can sign up, and then you can use that link again to get all your bonus content set up. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. Thanks, everybody.